Hello, welcome to this video. In this video, we're going to be doing a full body workout. It's about 35-ish minutes long. It's gonna focus a lot on core. We're gonna use your stability ball if you have it. If not, you don't really need it. It's not necessary. I'll also link down below a stability ball that you can purchase if you'd like to follow along with more of my videos. We'll get started. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy. I hope you shake. I hope you sweat. All right, we're gonna start with no springs, seated on the platform. A ball is gonna be behind that low back, kind of like a bunny tail supporting the small of your back. Hands are gonna start back behind your head, heels are on your carriage. On your exhale, we'll bend the knees, lifting your chest up. Inhale as you lengthen those legs out, hinging back. We're gonna warm up that core. The lower you go, the deeper you're gonna get into your core. If this feels like it's a little too much, we're gonna lengthen those arms all the way out in front of you instead of have those hands back behind you. We're going slow with this, thinking about engaging your core. On this next one, we're gonna hold that chest down. We're just gonna bend and extend at those knees. So upper body is staying still. We're holding that chest down low, bending those knees in on your exhale, inhaling as those legs slowly go all the way out. You want to think about going slow. You want to think about pulling that belly button up and in towards your spine, thinking about pulling that low tummy up and in. The slower you go, the deeper you're going to get into those muscles. So the slower you go, the more intense this will be. On this next one, we'll bend those knees in. We're gonna hold those knees there. We'll start to pulse that chest down 1 inch and then up 1 inch. We're thinking about moving slowly. Watching back, I definitely could have gone a little bit slower, could have added in a longer pause every time you pulse. You maybe wanna think about pulsing down towards the floor a little bit lower every time you pulse. The lower you go, the more intense this will be on your core. However, if you feel this in your low back, we won't go down as low. If you're new, you can always make this a lot smaller. From here, we're gonna bring that right heel onto your carriage. Left leg's gonna hover up into tabletop. As you bend that right knee in, we're gonna twist that right elbow up and over towards that left knee. So we're finding that oblique twist. We're holding that lower body down kind of about halfway. So we're holding that little hinge back, twisting up and over towards that left knee, taking your time with this. On this next one, we're gonna bend that right leg in. We'll hold it there. We're gonna start to pulse that chest down 1 inch and up 1 inch. So you have that twist over. We're pulsing a little bit closer towards your knee every time. So we're pulsing that oblique crunch. Very nice. That's difficult. We're gonna do that same thing on the other side. Left leg is on your carriage, right leg is up at tabletop. We'll start with that twist. As you bend that left leg in, we're twisting that left elbow up and over towards your right knee. Right knee staying at perfect tabletop. We're staying slightly hinged back. Moving slowly, taking as many breaks as you need to through this. Doing this, I was struggling, so take as many breaks as you need. Try not to power through your neck. If you feel this in your back, readjust, reset, take that quick break. All right, we're gonna hold that twist. We'll find those little pulses, twisting up a little bit closer towards your knee. All right. From here, we're gonna pop on one blue spring. If you have a yellow spring, go for it. I have a blue spring, that's my lightest spring. If I had a yellow, I'd put on a yellow. Short box is gonna go on right in front of those shoulder blocks. We'll grab that ball. It's gonna go between those inner thighs. So your ball is between your inner thighs. We're gonna start out with some planks. On your inhale, we'll bend those knees underneath those hips. Exhale to lengthen those legs all the way back out. We want to keep those hips right in line with those shoulders. We're moving slowly, keeping your chin off of your chest. Gaze is just out in front of your headrest. You have that slight squeeze on your ball, taking your time with this. From here on this next one, those knees are gonna go directly underneath those hips. We'll start to give that ball little squeezes, keeping that carriage still, hovering those knees off of that carriage, little squeezes on your ball. We're gonna keep a big squeeze on that ball. We'll pulse those knees down towards those springs and then back up. So little pulses down and then up, finding those lower abdominals, keeping that carriage still. We'll press that carriage all the way out into your plank. We'll make our way into a shoulder saw. We're gonna press those elbows out from underneath those shoulders. Then we'll slowly bring those elbows right back underneath those shoulders. We're hinging at the shoulder joint, lower body staying in that perfect plank position, keeping that chin off of your chest, keeping that slight squeeze on your ball. And this next one, we're gonna press that box out, we're gonna hold it out. So we're holding at your challenge point. Those elbows are out from underneath those shoulders. We'll bring that carriage in, we'll take that quick little breather, and we're gonna toss your ball to the side. We're gonna do a couple more planks just without your ball this time. When you're ready, we'll press ourselves out into your plank. We're gonna go into a slow mountain climber. One knee is gonna bend in towards your box. We'll place that foot back down to your platform, and then we'll switch. We're lifting out of those shoulder joints, pressing heavy into that box, moving slow. From here, we're gonna bend that right leg in. We're gonna keep that right leg bent. We're gonna start to pulse those hips up 1 inch and then down 1 inch. So it's similar to a single leg pike a little bit. We're just using those lower abdominals. That left foot is staying on that platform. This is super intense on those lower abs. We're gonna do that same thing on the left side. Left knee will bend in. We'll start to pulse those hips up 1 inch and then down 1 inch. If you need to, you can set that knee down on your carriage every time you pulse. If you'd like to progress, we're gonna try to keep that knee hovering the whole time. All right, we're done with planks. Your carriage can come in. We're gonna stay on that blue spring. We're gonna move into some upper body movement. So we'll reach back for those short loops, starting with serve a tray. Exhaling as those arms reach out. Inhaling as you bend those elbows directly underneath those shoulders. We're sitting up nice and tall, relaxing those shoulders down. Crown of the head is reaching up to the ceiling. We're staying light on those sits bones to lift up out of your low back. Taking your time with this, you always have the option to drop down to your longer loops if the short loops are feeling a little bit too much. It's better to get a full range of motion than to power through your neck. On this next one, we'll lengthen those arms all the way out. We're gonna draw small circles with those hands. So a small circle through the shoulder joint, keeping those palms facing the ceiling. Still thinking about relaxing those shoulders down. We're gonna go ahead and reverse that circle. Going in the opposite direction. We'll lower those arms down. You can shake out those arms. We're gonna go into an overhead press next. So we're looking towards those springs. We'll find a slight lean forward. Exhaling as those arms lengthen towards the ceiling. Inhaling as those elbows bend out wide into that big cactus shape. This movement is working the tops of the shoulder muscles. You want this hinge coming from the hip joint. You want to keep your chin off of your chest. So instead of just looking down towards those springs, we want to pitch that chest forward. From here, we'll lengthen those arms all the way out. First finger and thumb are going to make a triangle. Biceps are in line with those ears. On your inhale, we'll bend at those elbows. Hands will go back behind your head. Exhale as you lengthen those arms all the way out. You want to keep those biceps right next to those ears. We just want the lower arm to be moving. Upper arm is staying completely still. We're working in the backs of the arms, working into those triceps. We're still keeping that hinge forward, that lean forward, looking towards those springs. All right, we're gonna lower those arms down. We'll hang those long loops back up. We're gonna go into some lunges. We'll find your ball. We'll make your way to standing on your platform facing the foot bar. When you're there, we're gonna take that right foot back onto your carriage. Left foot is gonna stay onto your platform. We're gonna start with some back lunges. On your inhale, we'll lower down into that front leg. Exhale as you stand up into that front leg. When you're ready, we'll add in those arms. As you lower down into that front leg, those arms are gonna lift up overhead. As you come back up to standing, we'll lower those arms back down in line with your chest. We wanna make sure that as you're bending down, your knee is staying directly on top of that ankle the whole time. Those shoulders are staying on top of those hips. We wanna make sure both hips are staying square towards that foot bar. So we wanna keep that right hip pulling forward the whole time. We have that slight squeeze on the ball with the heel of your hand to activate those arms and your chest muscles. On this next one, we're gonna lower down into that big deep bend. We'll hold your lunge. We're just gonna lift and lower those arms. Arms lift up to the ceiling. We'll slowly lower those arms back down in front of your chest. We're holding low in those legs. So we're holding that static hold in that lunge. We're gonna lower those hands down in front of your chest. Your arms are gonna stay there. We'll start to pulse that lunge down 1 inch and up 1 inch. Every time you pulse, you wanna think about pausing. So down 1 inch, pause, up 1 inch and pause. That right leg is staying all the way back behind you. Those arms are staying out in front of you. We're taking those small, slow pulses. We're gonna hold it down low in that lunge. We'll bend that carriage leg in as you bend those arms in. We'll lengthen that carriage out as you lengthen those arms out. So going into that carriage kick with a bend and extend at the elbows. We wanna hold low in that front leg. We're bending that back leg in as those arms bend in, lengthening that back leg out as those arms lengthen out. We still are keeping those shoulders directly on top of those hips. We're still keeping that slight squeeze on your ball, still taking your time with this, inhaling to bend, exhaling to extend. On this next one, we're gonna kick that carriage all the way out. We're gonna go back into a full lunge. This time, those arms are gonna stay out in front of your chest. As you bend down into that lunge, you wanna also add in that pitch down towards the floor at your hip. So we're finding that hinge coming from the hip as you lower down into your lunge. It's a combination of a lunge with a deadlift. So adding in that hinge down is gonna add in that deadlift component. It's gonna target that glute a little bit deeper. That back leg is still staying completely out long. So this time, your shoulders are lowering down as you lower down. The first one, we kept the shoulders stacked on top of the hips. That carriage is gonna come all the way in on this next one. We're done with that side. We're gonna swap out those legs. So that right foot is gonna step onto that platform. We're gonna place that left foot onto your carriage. We'll do that same thing on the other side. We'll lengthen those arms out as you bend down into that front leg. We're gonna reach those hands up to the ceiling. As you lower those arms down, we'll lower that ball back down in line with your chest. Shoulders are on top of those hips on this one. Moving slowly, still making sure knee is directly on top of your ankle. As you bend down, a good trick to make sure that your knee is on top of your ankle is if you can see your toes in front of your knees, you're good. If you can't, you want to think about sending those hips back and down as you lunge, rather than just bending that knee forward. On this next one, we're gonna lower down into your lunge. We'll hold it low. We're just gonna lift and lower those arms. Finding that static hold in the lower body, lifting and lowering those arms while we're still keeping that squeeze on the ball and while keeping that lunge. We'll lower those hands down in line with that chest. We're gonna start to pulse that lunge down 1 inch, pausing, up 1 inch and pausing. Those arms are staying fully lengthened out in front of you. If that feels like it's too much, you can always bend those elbows in, holding that ball right in front of your chest. Taking your time with this, moving slowly, adding in that pause. We're gonna hold it low. As you bend that carriage leg in, we'll bend those arms in. As you lengthen that carriage leg out, we'll lengthen those arms out. We're still holding low in that front leg, still keeping those shoulders stacked right on top of those hips. Taking your time with this, the slower you go, the more you're gonna get into those deep transverse abdominals, the deeper you're gonna get into your slow twitch muscle fibers. That's where you're gonna find the shake, that's where you're gonna find the change. We're gonna lengthen those arms all the way out. We're gonna go back into your lunges, this time adding in that hinge forward coming from the hip joint. So finding that lunge, bending down into that front leg as you pitch that chest towards your thigh. On your exhale, we'll straighten that standing leg all the way out and we'll restack those shoulders directly on top of those hips. On this one, my hands are just out in front of me, kind of tracking in line with my chest, making sure that I'm finding that hinge forward. You can always just toss your ball to the side or hold that ball however else feels best. This one's kind of a trickier movement to find that hinge forward while you're bending down. So you might have to toss your ball to the side to really focus on the lower body and the upper body moving together. All right, we're gonna do a few more of these. Then we're gonna be done with legs. Bring that carriage all the way in. We're gonna carefully step off of your box. Your box is gonna go to long ways. We're gonna do some upper body movements facing the straps. Your ball is between those inner thighs. We're gonna start with a bicep curl. We have that slight lean back towards that foot bar. Inhale as you extend those arms out. Exhale as you bend those elbows. We have that slight squeeze on your ball. Shoulders are relaxing down away from those ears, or relaxing your neck and jaw. We're taking your time. Wrists are staying straight and strong. Fingertips are staying long and lengthened. On this next one, we're gonna hold that bicep curl. We'll give that ball little pulses. Squeezing in a little bit heavier every time you pulse, holding that 90-degree bend at the elbows. We're gonna keep that big squeeze on your ball. We'll pulse those elbows up 1 inch and down 1 inch, hinging at the shoulder joint, keeping that big squeeze on that ball. We'll lower those arms all the way down. We're gonna choke up to the tape parts or right underneath the silver clasps. We're gonna go into a chest expansion. Exhale as you straight arm sweep those hands back. Inhale as you sweep those arms forward. We're sitting up nice and tall. Shoulders are stacked on top of those hips. Your chest is staying open. So keeping that slight squeeze on that ball. We wanna keep this movement behind you. So as those arms sweep forward, we're stopping in line with the hips, then sweeping those hands back. We're gonna sweep those hands back. We'll start to pulse in on your ball, squeezing in on that ball, holding those arms back, holding at that furthest point. We'll keep a squeeze on your ball. We're gonna start to pulse those hands back 1 inch and forward 1 inch, still keeping that big squeeze on that ball. From here, we're gonna move into triceps. We'll find that lean forward again, coming from the hip joint. Your upper arm is gonna glue right in by your side. We're gonna bend and extend just at your elbows. So upper arms are glued in next to those ribs. You wanna think about sending those pinkies up to the ceiling. We'll go for 3, 2, and last one. We're gonna place that ball off to the side for a moment. We're gonna slide those short or long loops over your knees like you're putting on pants. The loop part is gonna go over the knee. The silver clasp part will be underneath the knee. We're gonna scoot forward on your box so you have enough room to lie all the way back. We'll grab that ball as well. Your ball is gonna go between those ankles. Hands are gonna go out in front of you. We'll find a chest lift. Legs will start in tabletop. Inhale as those legs extend out to 45. Exhaling as those knees bend into tabletop. We wanna make sure your low back is staying imprinted all the way down into that box. That low back is glued into your box. You have that slight squeeze on your ball. During this, you can take as many breaks as you need to. It's a lot on the lower abs. I'm gonna take lots of breaks through this. You'll see that. We're staying in that chest lift, looking towards that sternum. On this next one, those legs are gonna lengthen all the way out to 45. We're gonna give that ball little squeezes, pulsing in on that ball. If this feels like it's too much, you can hold those legs at tabletop and pulse. We'll keep that squeeze on your ball. We'll pulse that chest up 1 inch and down 1 inch. Still pulsing. I have to take a break. We'll go for 5, 4, 3, 2, and last one. That ball is gonna go between those knees this time. We're gonna do that same thing with that ball between those knees. So we're up in that bow, inhaling as those legs extend to 45, exhaling as you bend those knees into tabletop. I like to alternate between hands behind my head and then arms out in front of me. Hands behind your head is gonna be a little bit more intense. Hands reaching forward is gonna be a little bit less intense. Still thinking about pressing that low belly down towards that box, curling up into your bow. On this next one, legs will go out. We'll pulse in on your ball, staying up in that bow. On this one, we're not gonna pulse that chest. This is the last movement with that ball there. We'll lower all the way down. We'll take that big stretch over your box. We're gonna do all of those movements one more time, this time with your ball between those inner thighs. This is a lot on the core. I'm clearly struggling doing this. So if you are, that's totally fine too. If you're not, don't stop, keep going. We're gonna go into that one more time, inhaling as those legs extend, exhaling as those knees bend. We're staying up in your bow. Again, taking as many breaks as you need to. This is not fun in the moment, but it's gonna be fun tomorrow when you're a little sore, and you'll thank me, and I will say you're welcome. On this next one, those legs will lengthen out. We'll finish up with those pulses. Lower those legs down, ball will go off to the side. We'll slide those loops off. We're gonna readjust everything. Your box is gonna come off of your carriage. It can go off to the side somewhere. We're gonna keep that ball with you. Your foot bar is gonna come back up to its original position if it's not already there. We're also gonna pop on a red spring along with your blue. So one red, one blue, headrest is all the way flat. We're gonna go into some bridging. We're gonna start with those heels on your foot bar, balls between those inner thighs, exhaling as those legs lift, inhaling as they lower. Honestly, I'm a little bit disappointed with how I am in this video, but just for context, this was my third workout of the day and I was really sore. So give me a break. We're gonna keep that squeeze on your ball. That carriage is staying as close to your stopper as you can. We're finding that little melt through the spine. So we're finding that articulation bridge, feeling each bone as you lift, each bone as you lower. On this next one, we're gonna lift those hips up into that perfect bridge. We're gonna pulse your bridge. So we're pulsing those hips up 1 inch and down 1 inch. Still trying to keep that carriage as close to the stopper as possible. If you'd like to progress, you can reach those hands up to the ceiling. Little pulses with those hips. We'll keep those hips high. We're gonna squeeze in on your ball, squeezing in a little bit tighter every time you pulse, keeping that carriage as close to that stopper as you can. From here, we're gonna go into some marching with those legs. So one leg is gonna lengthen out to 45. We'll lower it down and then we'll switch. You still wanna keep that slight squeeze on your ball so you don't lose the ball. Those hips are staying completely still and stable as much as possible. One more time each side, and then we'll lower those hips all the way back down onto your carriage. You can give those knees a little rock side to side. You can readjust that ball a little bit. Your ball, we're gonna keep it between those inner thighs. We're gonna do one more set of bridges. We'll lift up into that bridge. Arms are gonna go up to the ceiling. On your inhale, we'll lengthen those legs out. Exhale as you squeeze that carriage all the way in. We're keeping those hips lifted the whole time, similar to a hamstring curl. This is gonna be a lot on those hamstrings. Exhaling as you squeeze that carriage all the way home, inhaling to lengthen out. Every time you pull that carriage in, you wanna think about lifting those hips back up into that perfect bridge. On this next one, we'll squeeze that carriage all the way home. We're gonna give that ball little squeezes. Carriage is all the way in, hips are staying up in that bridge. We're pulsing in on that ball. We're gonna start to pulse your carriage this time out 1 inch and in 1 inch. Little pulses. We're almost done with bridging. We're almost done with the lower body. We'll bring that carriage in, we'll lower those hips down. You can give those knees a big hug in, maybe rock those knees side to side. Whatever you need. We're gonna finish up with some supine abs and we'll start to stretch. Short loops are gonna go onto your hands. Arms are gonna float up to the ceiling. Legs will hover up into tabletop. Exhale as you sweep those hands down. Inhale as you sweep those arms up to the ceiling. We wanna stop when those fingertips are right on top of those shoulders, stopping when those wrists are right on top of those shoulders. We're pressing that low back down. On this next one, as those hands press down, we're gonna curl head, neck, and shoulders up into your bow, looking towards that belly button. Whenever you're ready, as those hands press down by your side, one leg will lengthen out to 45. As those arms float up, we'll bend your leg back into tabletop. As those arms press back down, we'll switch legs. So similar to a bicycle movement, still keeping that chest lift, still moving slowly. This next one, left leg is gonna hold out at 45. We'll hold up in that chest lift. We're just gonna lift and lower those arms. Right leg is staying at perfect tabletop. Left leg is staying out at perfect 45. Staying up in that chest lift, lifting and lowering those arms. And do that same thing on the other side. Right leg is out at 45, staying up in your bow, lifting and lowering those arms. Right now we're working that right oblique. So the leg that's out at 45, we're working that oblique, taking as many breaks as you need to. We'll do one more. Then we'll bend those arms, your feet will relax down. You can readjust on your carriage, shake those knees out. Your arms are gonna go back up to the ceiling. Your legs are gonna hover up into tabletop. Heels are together, toes are apart. Left hand will go on the outside of that left thigh. Your right hand will go between those knees. We're gonna curl up into your bow. On your next one, both hands will go between the knees. Then we'll lower head, neck, and shoulders down. We're gonna switch sides every time. So we'll do left oblique curl up, center towards your foot bar curl up, then right oblique curl up. So we're meeting in the center every time you go onto one side. So it's left, center, right, center, left, center, right, center, and so on. We're taking your time with this, holding those legs in that perfect diamond shape. So you still wanna make sure your shins are staying parallel to the floor. All right. We're gonna finish up that rep one last time on your right, one last time through center. We'll bend the arms, feet will drop down to your foot bar. We're gonna drop down to your long loops. Your long loops are gonna go over the arches of your feet. We'll send those legs up to the ceiling, starting in parallel. We'll lower those legs down to 45. Then we'll lift those legs back up to 90. We're lowering down to about the height of that foot bar. As those legs lift up, we want to make sure tailbone and hips are staying planted down onto that reformer, onto that carriage, especially if you have any lower back pain. From here, we're going to find an internal rotation. We'll point your toes together, heels are apart, lifting and lowering. Finding that internal rotation is just going to give you a different stretch in the back of the leg. You might feel this a little bit more intensely or a little bit less intensely, depending on how flexible you are and what part of your leg. We're gonna find an external rotation. We'll do that same thing, lifting up to the ceiling, then lowering back down to 45, squeezing those heels together. We're gonna lower those legs down to 45. We're gonna go into Peter Pan. As one knee bends, the other one will go all the way out to one side. We're gonna straighten out both legs, meeting those legs through center at 45, and then switching. So as those legs are at 45, those legs are completely straight. The whole leg is squeezed together before you switch to the other side. We're gonna do one more. Then when you're ready, we're gonna meet in a butterfly stretch. Soles of the feet are pressed together, knees are out wide. Feet can go down towards those springs or you can keep them high depending on what feels best for you. One leg is gonna go out wide to the side, finding that inner thigh stretch. We'll bend that leg in. We'll do that same thing on the other side. You can hold for as long as you need to. Legs are gonna go up to the ceiling. We're gonna go into leg circles. You can start any direction you'd like to. We're taking your time with this. You have the option to pause on any spots that are feeling super tight. Still thinking about making sure your tailbone is staying all the way down as those legs circle up. So if this isn't a huge range of motion, that's okay. You can clearly see for me that my range of motion isn't huge because I have super tight hamstrings. So if your range of motion is small, that's totally fine. You don't want to force it. We're gonna reverse your circle, doing that same thing in the opposite direction, trying to be as smooth as you can with those circles. We're gonna send those legs up to the ceiling. We'll finish up with that hamstring stretch. You'll find a little pedal through those legs. Toes are flexed towards your face. You can send those legs out wide to the side, finding that inner thigh stretch. And you made it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you have any requests or anything like that. I'm definitely going to make a mat Pilates video soon and some more like targeted upper body workouts, etc. But thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.